that it brings up thoughts about what that's like for someone in those circumstances, especially in our day. So this story is a little long, but it's a beautiful retelling. I'm going to be telling it from the perspective of Hagar. So I invite you to just take a deep breath. Her laugh lines like jewelry. She told stories better than anyone I've ever known. The desert wind sent her white hair dancing and carried her unmistakable peals of laughter through the arid atmosphere like old and young, men and women, slave and free, ventured to her tent for advice on arranging marriages, spicing food, and offering prayers. And yet, in our world, they called this woman barren. I had the misfortune to belong to a woman who believed the wrong name. So she gave my body to Abraham. Long as I live, I will never forget how casually she informed me of my duty. Rattled off at the end of a list of linens to gather and food to prepare. Don't begin as kicks, but as subtle, enigmatic flutters. They don't tell you that. So I doubted right until the morning, lying on my side after another night of fitful dreams. I placed my hands on my belly and felt the sudden, certain impression of a heel. No woman can prepare for the awe of it, the overwhelming surge of both joy and fear. Instinctively, I looked around for someone to tell, but of course no one was there. Then came a second nudge, this one longer and firmer, as if to say, don't you dare think yourself alone, Mama. We're here in this world together. A secret. That must have been the moment I started singing. It grew stormier, a wind assailed me, about to break. A slave expects harsh words and withheld rations, but the physical abuse surprised me. Taunts turned to slaps, barked orders to mule whips to the back. I would not have fled had she not threatened the baby's life. I want you to know that. I would not have taken the risk of running into the desert in the dead of night with only a jug of water and some stolen bread to sustain me had I not feared the worst. Abraham did nothing, of course. My mute idols even less. Did they even notice? Could they even see? Your scribes will remember it as a silly woman's spat, an anecdote to explain how this cursed land grew populated. But your scribes never carried a baby through the desert. Your scribes never knew the singular desperation of counting the hours from the last assuring kick. I took the road to shore, the closest thing I knew to home, but as the female, neither Egyptian nor Hebrew, neither safe nor threatening, and in a voice that sounded like my mother's, spoke. Hagar, slave of Sarah, where have you come from, and where are you going? This stranger knew my name. I'm fleeing from my mistress, I answered. What could I say of where I was going? Go back to Sarah, the stranger said, but do not be afraid. Not only will this child live, but through him I will give you a whole nation of descendants, grandchildren and great-grandchildren, too numerous to count. I cannot tell you why, but immediately I believed. This stranger with the voice of a dove spoke with the authority of God. Your son will grow into a fighter, God said, a wild donkey of a man. But even as he struggles, he will survive. Call him Ishmael, for it means God hears. And God has heard you in your misery today. In spite of everything, I smiled at the part about the donkey, for I already knew how that boy kicked. Every mama is something of a prophet. You may think a prophecy of struggle and strife would dishearten a pregnant mother, but a slave does not struggle or strive. A slave only obeys. If the prophecy was true, it meant this boy, my Ishmael, would be free. With what force I could muster, I rose to face God, the brightness of the sun obscuring both our faces. I knew it was the God of my mistress, whom she called Yahweh. But if I was to be the mother of a nation, I would need to give this God a new name. You are a God who not only hears, but also sees, I said, surprised by the strength of my voice. I have seen the one who sees me. So I named God as I named the well, El Roi, the God who sees. And it was a name remembered, for as your scripture reports, that is why the well was called Bir Lahai Roi. It is still there between Kadesh and Bered. Many of my sisters would draw from that well, the Hebrew midwives who defied Pharaoh by delivering the babies of slaves, the despised Samaritan who scandalized a town for daring to speak to the Messiah, the young women ripped from their homes in West Africa and shipped like livestock across the sea, the mamas who saw their boys lynched, and the grandmas who saw their grandsons gunned down, the millions of black and brown people whose names the world has forgotten, but whose God never failed to see, the fierce female prophets and preachers who rose from the ashes of their suffering and dared, like me, to survive and to name. I too would return to it, years later when Sarah banished me to the wilderness again, this time with a little boy clinging to my legs. My faith, like Abraham's, was tested, but my faith, unlike the patriarchs, was not immortalized in Caravaggio's reds or Chagall's blues for later generations to view, nor was it remembered in the litany of Hebrews or in the genealogies of your New Testament. Yet just one person and all. The first is that you can do something local. You can donate to support asylum seekers who are staying at the Expo in Portland. You can even text the word donate. You can text the word Expo, E-X-P-O, to the number 91999, and the money will go to support asylum seekers, many of them young children and families. You can donate in person at the Portland City Manager's office or send a check to the City of Portland City Manager's office. And the information is right there on the screen, and we're going to post it on our website and Facebook after. If you have questions, we can give you that contact information. You can also call your local representatives, your government representatives, and demand that action be taken to stop the separation of families and the inhumane treatment of children and adults at the U.S.-Mexico border. You can also do another local action. You can support the Greater Portland Family Promise Initiative, which offers housing and transition resources to help young families get housing in the area. Hope Gateway United Methodist Church in Portland is one of the huge sponsors and partners in this effort. You can donate financially, but they're also always looking for simple items. This week, they posted on their Facebook page that they're just looking for keychains to give families that are transitioning out of the shelters into new apartments so they have something to put their keys on. I think sometimes we take that for granted, that we can just get a keychain. So you can look on their Facebook page, or if you'd like to bring keychains in, we'll make sure they get there. Finally, you can also educate yourself about children advocacy and the ways that children suffer in the world and what we can do about it. The United Methodist Women is actually a great resource for this. Part of their mission is to help children and women locally and globally. So there's a lot of resources if you just go to United Methodist Women or Google UMW online. We can also help you here. We have an active United Methodist Women group. We support New Beginnings. We also support Wisdom's Women's Center, among other initiatives to help women and children. So our challenge this week is to do at least one of those things, to hear the call of suffering children. The New Interpreter's Bible said that Hagar's lament ensues in the assurance of salvation. In this story, the people of God recognize and rejoice that God's saving acts are not confined to their own community. God's acts of deliverance occur out and about in the seemingly God-forsaken corners of the world, even among those who may be explicitly excluded from the people of God. Here we see God at work among the outcasts, the refugees of the world, who fill our world as them. Persons of faith are to participate in their lives, to lift them up and hold them fast. Wells become available. May we do so. Amen. Walking, rather than show up with compassion for those who